Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Hug Talk. I'm excited. I really love doing this. I love being able to connect with new people, especially if I've never met them before. Actually, wouldn't that be new people? Because they are new if I haven't met them. So never mind. I just want to introduce today's guest. Her name is Stephanie. Welcome, Stephanie, to the show.
Hi, Hugo. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, and I can see you're laughing at me, but I'm excited to be talking to you. I met you through my cousin Monica, and I know that you currently are helping children who are going through depression, and you're giving them tools to be able to get out of it. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I work with students not only with that may be diagnosed with depression, but also anxiety. Have a lot of students with ADHD, students who have an emotional ED diagnosis, which is emotionally disturbed. So I work with a very wide range of students that are going through some mental health challenges.
Wow. And so what age group do you specifically work with?
I work with kinder through fifth grade, but the department that I work with, we work with pre-K all the way to high. And if you're enrolled in our adult education program, then our services are open to you as well.
Wow. Okay, so but you're mainly with the kids then.
Yeah, so I'm working with the elementary, K through 5.
Cool. Now, trying to think back of my memories from kindergarten through fifth grade, and trying to see if I was depressed or if I remember feeling depressed. What does that look like for kids that age?
Well, for elementary students, it can look a lot of different ways, and it really just depends on your kid or your student that you have in your classroom and your understanding of them, or how they present to you normally, I guess. And then any kind of change that comes from there can be a signifier for some kind of mental health crisis that they're going through, or a diagnosis that may be not there yet, quite yet. Maybe they haven't gotten diagnosed.
Hmm.
But I mean, it can look totally different from kid to kid. And I know that's not the best answer, but that's the truth. It's just like in adults,
Yeah.
we don't always react to things the same way.
Yeah. I mean, I have a
Um,
10-year-old, and that's kind of why I was asking.
mhm.
Especially with what's going on in the world today, it's kind of obvious he's bummed out, and I can tell he's bummed out a lot about doing online school. I know he hates it. It's a drag. So how are you guys handling kids like who are feeling all these feelings right now?
Those are the kids that I'm working with that right now that are they're struggling to
Yeah.
sit through their Zoom classes. They're struggling to find the motivation to even log on. And those are the indicators for us right now
Yeah.
that this student, maybe this student might not have a diagnosis, but they're having there are these indicators, there are these challenges that they're going through that they need support in. And that's where we come in and work with them, work with the parent, and work with the teacher to try and accommodate them and help them be successful in the classroom.
And what are some tips like? Okay, because I have my son and I see him, and I get bored too, and I see his teacher, and I don't think it's fun either. And it's just one of those things where, like, okay, what kind of tips can you give kids or parents right now that are maybe struggling with having their kids focus? Is it something that like, I know a lot of people have left their job right now because they don't have childcare, and we don't appreciate the school system as much until now. And so, we have people like my son's mom who left her jobs to focus on him being in school and paying attention to school. So what are some tips you can give some parents that maybe are struggling with having their kids pay attention?
My number one tip for parents is to try to have fun, because it is such a depressing time right now and there are so many negative things going on in the world. And it's usually I get pushback for that is, just have fun with your kid. And I do get pushback, but it's a game changer, especially right now. And it's a game changer for the parent. Like, the parent sometimes doesn't realize, hey, I haven't had fun with my kid in a while, or, we haven't laughed in a while, or we haven't spent time together. And the at the core of everything that we do is building relationships,
Yeah.
building that trust with the students.
Yeah.
so that they'll talk with us about what's going on with them, because we just don't know unless they tell us.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. Like, for example, my son and his mom and I share him. We're not together, and we haven't been forever. So, we work together to help him go through school, and I do have fun with him. And he says that because, I like to make jokes. And I told him too, I was like, dude, if I was in quarantine with your mom, I'd be miserable too. You know what I mean? Like, I get it. I hear you. I want to help you. But the thing is, I don't always have him with me. So it is a
Right.
challenge also. So do you deal with kids from like who have separate homes or two homes, or also are dealing with that, moving back and forth and doing things like that? I'm
Yeah,
all
no,
asking you for
totally. We
like free
have
therapy right now, basically.
no, we definitely have those kids, like those, that's definitely a struggle. And then especially given the circumstances of COVID, there are some parents that are battling because one does not want them to be traveling back and forth because of safety reasons, because of germs.
Yeah.
Kids are gross, and they have so many
Boy,
germs.
let's correct that term.
So
Little boys are gross. Maybe girls are or can be, but I have a 10-year-old boy, and he's the grossest thing I've ever seen. So, I mean, he's handsome, but he's gross, and I'll tell it to his face. So it's fine.
it's yeah, I mean, it's a safety concern at this point.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a challenge right now, and it's hard to really help without digging into those deeper issues, or those deeper challenges, like your parents' divorce. Like you said, this is something that's not new. You guys haven't been together for a while, but the
We,
way
we
that
were
you're
we were
having
never
to
married. I just want to clear that up for all my
oh, okay.
listeners. Yeah, we were never married, but yeah. Sorry, continue.
So, but you weren't living in the same house,
No,
right?
no, never.
Okay. So this is not a new change. Your son and your partner that you previously had, you never lived together.
Yeah.
But the way that you're navigating it right now, because of COVID and because of the circumstances of the world that we have to be mindful of, that's something new. So a big part of my job is getting people to understand that perspective of, you're used to the separation, and you're used to having to just kind of deal with life's curveballs.
Yeah.
But as a child, you don't have those regulation skills. You don't have those problem solving skills. So even though it's not a new life event, the way that you're dealing with it right now is new. So understanding that from the child's perspective
Yeah.
does wonders for the parent, does wonders for the teacher. Not always the easiest part, but
Yeah, they get the
when
shittiest
you
end of
get
the stick,
there,
right? The teachers.
yeah, but when you get there, it does wonders.
Yeah, for sure. I can definitely see that. Now I'm curious because I'm a big mental health advocate, and I am because I've gone through the whole depression stage. I've tried committing suicide, and I know that when people work in that field or talk about that field, it's because they've experienced something similar, or they've gone through that themselves and they want to help someone. So, is that why you're in this? Is that why you're helping kids, and why kids specifically?
So my whole career has been basically working with kids. I started out at the YMCA. That was my first job, working with kids. I was in the after school program. I
Hmm.
worked in a few different after school programs. And then I started working with students and adults that have special needs and intellectual disabilities. So once I got into that, I got into learning about behavior and also the connection to mental health. And it just kind of, I don't know, sparked a passion in me of wanting to help these kids be more functional in their lives and be more independent. And that's kind of what drives me, is really seeing a kid progress from not talking to anyone, not having any friends, or not being able to feed themselves. When I would work with kids on the lower functioning,
Yeah.
just seeing their progress is just so rewarding. And that's why I do what I do, and I love doing it.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, how has this whole quarantine affected you mentally?
Well, I've cooked a lot of bread.
Banana bread, or
I
just bread
I
in general? Like sourdough and shit.
I got a a stand mixer for my
Mm.
birthday in May.
Oh,
And ever since then, I did a lemon loaf. I did a funfetti loaf. I did cornbread. I did
So
what
what
else
you're
did I
saying is
do?
next time I see you, I'm getting
I
some.
did. That's what everyone thinks now, but I'm not the bread lady. I have a whole bunch of flour that my friend gave to me because I mentioned I've been making a lot of bread, and she's like, "Okay, now I want bread. Here's some flour." So my request for bread is on hold for right now, but
Right, just put me on the wait
um
list. That's fine.
yeah. But like other than that, like mentally, it's been tough, especially because of work. We were in limbo for a few months because of the shutdown and just everyone trying to scramble and figure things out. It was tough and stressful and feeling helpless, like I couldn't help my students. I couldn't help try to come up with a way to fix all of this, and it was a lot. And I know that I'm grateful for a lot of the things that I have, especially now, because I was able to be in a home
Yeah.
through those months that I wasn't working, and I was grateful that I even had a job, that I was still, employed during those times too. So it was a mixture of both.
Okay. Okay. Now, did this quarantine make you change your mind about anything that you had, like maybe a solid philosophy or a solid, like, like for example, me, this quarantine made me realize I don't want any more kids. Like, I don't want, I'm done with the 10-year-old. That's something that this quarantine really like pushed me to really conclude that, you know what I mean? So is there something that maybe you changed your mind about or you thought or made a more decisive decision?
That's a really good question. I think I did a lot of self-reflection during this time,
Yeah.
and I don't know how negative I was before, but I got stuck in like a really big negative rut, I think, and just was really honed in on what was going on in the world and felt like I needed to be on top of all the news and be on top of, anything developing, all of the tragic events that have happened. And I found myself like kind of realizing this is how I was, of trying to stay on top, be in the know about everything. And
Hmm.
I've been a big know-it-all, I think. And
Takes a lot to
it
admit that, by the way.
yeah, I know that about myself. Like I'm a big know-it-all, and if I don't know something, like I will Google it, I will learn about it so that I know it next time. So that's something that I feel like I changed my mind about, because it was so exhausting trying to know everything
Yeah.
about everything that was going on. And there was so much, like there was just too much. So I feel like I had to change my mind about that for my own mental health.
No, yeah, that's very solid.
So,
I think that a lot of us can learn from that. There's no expert in this. There's
yeah,
no expert
exactly.
in these times and during COVID. No one knows the perfect way to be a business, the perfect way to survive, the perfect way to make money, all that stuff. We're all experiencing this together for the first time.
Yeah, and that's scary. Like that's some scary shit. Like you don't you know that nobody knows the answer.
Yeah.
And that's the part that you have to kind of sit with for a little while
Yeah.
and decide, okay, am I gonna dwell in this and get stuck into I've gone through depression fits before too, of being stuck in bed, being unmotivated, like to the worst extent of like almost losing my job.
Yeah.
So it's hard to you have to be mentally strong to get through those kinds of situations. And I'm grateful that I've gone through hard times before this, so I kind of have some coping skills. But
Yeah.
my heart goes out to everybody who is not on that level. It
Yeah.
is tough.
And I feel like a lot of people, especially with mental health, there's like that stigma, right? People don't want to talk about it, or even worse,
Yeah.
people don't want to listen about it. When I bring it up, because I do try to bring it up when I'm on stage or performing, I have a song
Mhm.
about it and I talk about it before I perform. You could see the energy change. People are like, they're like butt cheeks are clenched. They're like, oh my God,
Clenched. Oh my gosh, I was gonna say that.
yeah, they're they're just like, you never know how they're going to react when you tell them these things, and they don't know how to
Mhm.
react and they're afraid of reacting. So what are some tips you can give to people that, if someone's trying to open up to them, how should one react? How would you recommend them to react?
I think the biggest thing that I've learned just from my own experience and trying to have those tough conversations with parents and having to have those tough conversations with teachers who are kind of the perspective of like what we would call old school of, you know, like what's wrong with him? Like, why can't he just follow the directions? Like, why can't, you know, they get stuck in that mentality. And the biggest thing that I try to start them off with is to treat yourself and try to treat your child as a close friend, or, you know, just be gentle with them, because our reactions, our behavior is just a communication of what's going on internally. So being kind to yourself, being kind to others, which is something that I feel like the world lacks right now and just in general. But I mean, it's so simple, and it could all be so simple. I think that's something that I've also learned is there are simple solutions to these things, because it doesn't have to be that complicated, but I know that it is. And I know that the technicalities of life, like as far as culture, as far as your community, your, you know, your socioeconomic status, like all of those things
Yeah.
are realities that we have to deal with. And like there's no right answer, right? There's
Yeah.
no magic word that I could say right now that would help everyone, you know. But I think that being kind to yourself and being kind to your kid and your student is important, and it goes a long way.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. I also think that when someone's being that vulnerable with you, it's important to just listen sometimes, you know? Sometimes you don't
Yeah,
you don't
totally.
have to say anything. You could just listen to what they got to say and just be there. You know,
Yeah.
I think that one of the things that I try to do, or I try to help people with, or help people see, is that, you know, when you're depressed, it's, in my opinion, I don't know how like scientific this is, but when you're depressed, it's because you're not allowed to be yourself. And you, or at least I get this whole like concept of self that people don't understand. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, you got to love yourself, but they never teach you how, right? They never like show you how to do it. They never say what you can do to do it. And some of the things that I always tell people when I tell them, oh, you know, you should try loving yourself a little bit. And they're like, oh, well, what do you mean? Well, you know, take care of yourself. Make sure you always look good, taking a shower, sometimes shaving, just smelling clean. You know, you start
Hmm.
feeling like you're like, okay, I look good, I feel good. You know, you also gotta like do a pedicure, you know, haircut, and some maintenance, some go for a massage, or, you know, ask your roommate, significant other. If you're by yourself, you could buy those, what are those things that like the everyone's into right now, that like it's like a gun that like shoots up and down, and like, yeah, it's a massage gun basically.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like, what do you, I thought you were talking about those money guns, the like
Oh
where
no.
money flies out of
You
it.
can make it rain. Yeah, make it rain on yourself, you know?
That would make me feel better.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like there's a lot of things you could do to love yourself. Like, even if it's like for me, playing guitar, like just playing guitar,
Hmm.
or making time to do something that like feeds my inner child. I think that helps
Yeah.
a lot. And
Yeah, it does. But it's kind of like how you're saying reminded me of, like you said, nobody tells you how to love yourself. And like I just said, be kind to your child, be kind to yourself. Well, no one tells you how to do that or what that looks like.
mhm,
And I for me, it comes down to a lot of families that I work with are Hispanic, and their first instinct is, you know, yelling, chancla, like a lot of that. And it's like those, you know, those families, that's what I start with is let's calm ourselves down and think of, is this a productive way to deal with the situation, you know?
mhm,
And being kind to your child starts there. So
yeah,
that's something that I deal with at work. But like you said, playing the guitar and taking care of yourself, doing some maintenance, that always helps too. And you kind of have to take the time to learn what works for you,
yeah,
and what works for your student, what works for your kid. It's not the same. Like, I don't know how to play the guitar, so if you gave me a guitar and told me, hey, play this and go be happy, I would be so mad. I would be irritated. Like, I've always wanted to learn how to play the guitar, but I don't know how, so you just gave me this thing that makes me angry.
yeah,
So it's giving yourself time to learn about those things.
mhm,
That's something I think is important that not enough people do, of learning about yourself and what makes you happy and what's going to pull you out of those moments, because everyone goes through them,
for sure,
unfortunately.
for sure. So I kind of want to lighten it up a little bit, you know, lighten up the mood. Quarantine has been crazy for everyone. Obviously, it's affected us all differently. Some as have experienced it more difficult than others. But there's also positive things that have happened in quarantine. So what is the happiest
Mhm.
thing for you that has happened throughout this whole thing? Like, what's your happiest memory that you can think of?
I mean, other than the Lakers winning their championship,
Yeah.
I think the happiest thing that has happened for me since quarantine would I'm thinking of a lot of little moments. I
Hmm.
don't know if necessarily anything big has happened, but I got roller skates for my birthday, and that made me really happy.
Nice.
I recently got a bike that made me happy. Just like little things that have kind of let me branch out and do more, like have more hobbies, I guess.
Sure. Sure.
That's something that's made me happy because I have time, had time to do those things.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Really cool. I think a lot of people got bikes over this quarantine. I feel like they were
Yeah,
sold
they were
out
all
for a
sold
while.
out.
Yeah, and rollerblades, I think. Yeah, really cool. All right, so I'm going to do something new with this episode. I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to see if you have any questions for me now that you've kind of like been questioned. Do you have any questions for the host?
I know you mentioned you have a son.
Mm-hmm.
So, as just from where I work and what I do, I would love to know like what that has looked like because I work with a lot of kids who maybe have a lot of challenges going on in their home.
Yeah.
So I'm always curious, what does a typical household look like? So that's what I'm wondering. What does that look like for you?
So it's challenging for me because I also work from home. I'm able to check in and out and stuff with my computer. I don't need to be on the phone like consistently. So it is a challenge to get him to pay attention. And I don't blame him. And I think the difficulty with online school and the main challenge comes with the lack of attention the student gets. And so it is challenging. And then the homework part, I think, is the easiest thing now because
Mhm.
I do have more time, and I can help him with the homework, and that part's cool. I can't complain about that. And I feel like they're giving less homework too, just because it's like at least at his school, so he has like the whole week and the weekend to do it. And
Oh,
I
that's
don't.
good.
Yeah, but I'm not a fan of the online school. I miss socializing myself. And I can't imagine for children looking forward to seeing their friends, seeing how their summer went, talking about, what they did on vacation and just playing games. Like my son plays soccer and the dude like could play for hours and I don't have the energy that a 10-year-old has. So I know that other 10-year-olds are probably missing that, like the competition and the being able to run around. So
Yeah.
it's a lot louder in the house now, for sure.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's great that you have the time and you actually take the time to try and set your kid up for success.
Like I was a pretty average student. I didn't go to college. I was just one of those people who just didn't like school. And I understand that. So I try, like, I really hate being that guy who's like, you got to do great in school when I really didn't care and didn't put that effort. So it's that I think has been what's been hard for me. So I just go with what his mom says. And basically she's the one that's like, you got to go to school and blah, blah, blah. So um and it also makes quarantine easier just to be in peace with her. So it's
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, no conflict that's unnecessary. You don't need that right
No,
now.
we don't need anything else.
I thought of another question.
Yeah,
So
go for it.
you asked me what made me happy during this quarantine.
Yeah.
I'm wondering what's something that has kept you busy, other than your 10-year-old. That's like in and of itself plenty to keep you busy. But has there been anything else that you kind of have started doing or like gotten better at?
So I want to answer this question, but I'm thinking of how to word it. So what's been taking a lot of my time during quarantine has been a mixture of things, but I think the winner, or like the one that takes the cake, has been a relationship. I actually fell in love during quarantine, and
Oh,
she, if we're going with happiest memory, it would be when she met my son during quarantine, like just literally not that long ago. And seeing them both play soccer and laughing and getting along, like that was probably the coolest thing. And just like being able to like put my both worlds together and now share that time with both of them, it's pretty cool. So
yeah,
that's kind of been my time, I guess. My son and my girlfriend and my family.
that's awesome.
I also moved back with my parents during this whole quarantine.
Mhm.
So I'm doing the whole millennial thing, and
Yeah, I was gonna say.
yeah, and
I feel like a lot of them are going through that right now.
yeah, and you know what? At first, it was like, fuck, I got three roommates and they're annoying, and it's just like any other regular roommate situation, right? You don't want to hear them having sex. You don't want to like walk
Hmm.
into them naked. You don't want them eating your shit on the fridge.
Exactly.
It's just like, oh, this whole thing. It was frustrating at first, but now I'm like super appreciative about it, and I'm gonna
Mhm.
look back at these days during quarantine and be like, fuck, that was so cool. I got to spend so much great time with my parents and really like take advantage of just having them around, laughing, making jokes. I think that I'm very blessed. I have an awesome family. And I think that I forget sometimes that not everybody experiences it the same way. And I want to say that if like you have a challenging relationship with a family member, I think this is a great time to like reconcile and fix it or work towards getting it at a better place. And honestly, like, my mom cooks for me now, and she's like cooking every day, and I get free amazing home cooked Peruvian meals. And my dad makes fun of me every day. He asks me for money every day, and he bothers me and harasses me every chance he gets, but it's fun and it's funny, and it's one of those
Yeah.
things that I'll remember forever. And like just on Sunday, it was my whole family here and my son and my girlfriend, and it was just like it was cool to like this is something that has, if anything, has brought us a lot closer. And
Yeah.
I think that I can definitely say that my family has also been something that's been taking up my time. And I have a 18-year-old brother, and we've been playing music together now, so it's cool because he plays guitar and I'm a musician, so that's also been fun to do and having a jam session with my younger brother, who's like such a huge
Yeah.
age gap. It's pretty cool.
That's super. That sounds really cool. How did your girlfriend and you meet in quarantine?
Like every great love story in 2020, we met on a dating app. We met on Bumble.
Oh my gosh, how funny.
Yeah, no, I
I
was.
I live with my boyfriend and we met on Bumble
Oh,
like almost 3, no wait, almost 4 years ago now, I
no
think.
way. Yeah, I
I'm
was.
really bad at time, but
I was just really looking for something to pass time, but I actually ended up liking her a lot. And it was quarantine. I feel like everybody was in heat, and it was just, yeah, and they had that like video feature, so you got to FaceTime. So I got to FaceTime. Like there was a point in
oh.
2020 where I was having more cyber sex than I was actual, and like I started like thinking, oh, you know what? I'm getting bored of this. And then I met her, and she was like, she was, see, look, I can't even talk right. She was like completely different from everybody. And she was like really cool. How Bumble, you ask the question or the girl messages first.
Yeah.
I was always used to the hey or the what you up to or hello, something
Mhm.
lame like that. And she was like, so what do you think about this whole quarantine and how is this affecting your view in life or your philosophy in life? And I was like, like, what the hell? Okay.
Something interesting. Ooh.
Yeah, it was unique. And then to top it off, she's Mexican, so she's a Spanish speaker. So it's my first time dating someone also who only speaks Spanish mainly.
Oh, okay.
And I'm fluent in Spanish. It was my first language, but it was just so many unique things in that. And I wasn't gonna meet her because I was paranoid about this whole COVID thing, and I was bummed. I was
Mhm.
like, because we met on FaceTime, we were really cool, and she was like really fun, and I was like, fuck, I wish I could meet her in person. Like the one time I met someone I want to meet in person, like of course. And then she had a coworker that got COVID, and they were forced to like test everybody, and she tested
Mhm.
negative twice. And so she's like, all right, dude, like I tested negative. You want to meet
I'm
up in
good to
person or
go.
not? It's like the new STD test, I'm negative on COVID, and now you
I
can meet.
know it is.
Yeah, and yeah, but no, that's how we met online. And I think
Nice.
it's cool that
Nice.
you met your boyfriend online. You guys are living together, been together for, I think you said 3 or 4 years. So
Yeah.
that's goals, and I'm glad to see that there's other successful stories, and I can use that I forget I meet her online sometimes until people ask that question. But
Yeah, the same, exactly the same. Like, I feel like I met him like in high school or something.
yeah,
I don't feel like we met on Bumble.
yeah. I always tell people we met at a park because we actually did meet up at a park the first time. So
You're not lying.
yeah, I'm not lying. Well, Steph, I really appreciate your time and coming on the show. And I hope you can come on again and give us some mental health tips in the future. Any recommendation where people can go to in case they do need help?
I would say if you are in an emergency, of course, call 911. But your best bet is the Department of Mental Health, for the state, their website. California has a few crisis lines. They have a teen and an adult one, and I know there's a lot of nonprofits like the Trevor Project who have crisis lines. They specialize in LGBTQ plus communities, so that's another option too. But
Yeah.
there's resources out there, and if you are experiencing something, reach out for help. It's the hardest thing, but you gain so much from it.
Definitely. Thank you. And I'll leave some links and phone numbers below so you guys can look up or have some easy access to where you can go for help. Thanks again, Steph, for coming on the show. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
All right, guys. Have a good night.
Thanks.